Is the Toyota GR86 a good enough sports car to keep you satisfied until such time as you're prepared to pony up the dough for a Porsche Cayman? This is the question that I was hoping to answer for myself when one of the viewers of this channel, Danindu, was kind enough to offer me his GR86 for a test drive and a photo session. A little bit disorienting for me because I'm not used to filming somebody else's car. I'm used to doing things solo in the car and taking my time or having my brother-in-law Bobby with me. And sort of working together on this kind of stuff because we've known each other 26 years. So, it's easy. Truth be told, I probably should have thought a little bit more carefully about filming me driving the car, but I didn't really want this to be perceived as or packaged up as a road test because, number one, I'm not a motoring journalist. I've driven hundreds of cars, yes, but I did want to be able to see what this car was like compared to mine and to be able to get some nice photos of it, get some nice video of it, and just kind of showcase this car as a Porsche owner to those who are interested in how this compares to my car. But anyway, throughout the day, we did a number of drives in the area, mostly with Danindu driving his own car and me driving my Porsche Boxster. And towards the end of the day, we went for a blast in his car with me driving and him in passenger. And then we both got together in my Boxster and went for a blast in that. And I think Danindu actually summed up the difference, the fundamental core difference between the two cars really well. He said that the Porsche just felt more serious. And by that, he meant it's more planted, it feels more powerful, obviously, but it just feels like it's a more substantial and more serious sports car than the 86 is. Now, the 86 could probably be made to feel a little bit more serious, with perhaps coilover suspension, with wider wheels and tyres, that kind of thing. But I think already stock out of the factory, the car looks pretty good. I mean, typically I like to have a car a little bit lower. I like to have nice wide tyres and wheels pushed right to the edges of the guards. I kind of like that look. I don't like a car to be too low. My Boxster is probably a little bit too low at the moment, but that'll be fixed with coilovers soon. But I think even without doing those things, the new GR86 looks pretty damn good. In terms of its styling and its presence on the road, I think it has far more presence than the earlier one, which looks a little bit dainty and a little bit kind of 80s in my mind, whereas the new one has a beefier, more mature, more serious look about it. The headlights, the profile, the rear end of it all looks a lot more purposeful, and it definitely has hints of F-Type Jag, and a little bit of Aston, a little bit of Cayman. So it's giving off all of the right signals in terms of its look, and it's a nice car to walk up to and look at. And this was a chance too to photograph a car with my new Hasselblad X2D for the first time and the new XCD 80mm 1.9 lens, which is something I was very, very lucky to get. If any of you have looked at buying the XCD, the X2D, and to get any of the XCD lenses, you'll know how bloody hard it is at the moment. They're just a challenge to get worldwide. So this one fell into my lap because a customer had one on order, had it set aside, and then they decided not to go ahead with it. And I just came along at the right time. But I guess what you really want to know is what the driving experience was like. Having driven down that area quite a lot in my Porsche Boxster, I already had a really good understanding of how that road feels in my car. Jumping then into Danindu's GR86, a couple of things became immediately apparent. One was the ride was so much more compliant and well controlled. I know the Toyota invested quite a bit of extra time in getting the tune right for this car, the suspension tune for Australia, and it shows. It shows in the way the car rides and steers on challenging bits of road, like the back of Mount Macedon. The steering is accurate. The suspension feels well controlled in difficult situations, and yet it doesn't feel like a grip monster, despite the fact that it's got Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres on it. It's not built to have huge amounts of grip. It's still quite playful. Now, that would probably be, I say improved, but the playfulness is not a thing to do away with. Grip could probably be improved with different suspension, say coilovers with a different tune and probably wider wheels and tyres if you felt that way inclined. But I think that's one of the real charms of this platform is that, like the Boxster is more playful than a 911 at sensible speeds, the 86 and the BRZ are more playful than a Cayman or Boxster. at even more sensible speeds. And that's a good thing. And that's one of the things that was so good about my MX-5, the ND MX-5, is that you can have a lot of fun with that thing in suburbia. You don't have to be going fast. You don't have to be tearing around a windy road with your hair on fire to enjoy it. And this car's the same. In terms of power, I mean, it's got 174 kilowatts and 250 newton meters of torque. My Boxster has got 195 kilowatts and I don't remember how many newton meters of torque. But, you know, while the Boxster feels more powerful, a couple of reasons for that will be it has a little bit more power. Yeah, not substantially more. It has a bit more power, but of course it sounds more powerful because of the sports exhaust and that flat six engine, which, you know, creates lots of auditory pleasure. But also my Boxster is well and truly run in, whereas Danindu's car only has a few thousand Ks on it. So, you know, it will loosen up over time and probably develop a little bit more power as everything frees up. It was difficult to judge at first the take-up on the clutch, but within, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes, I felt comfortable with the relationship between the clutch and the gearbox. The gearbox itself feels nice, solid, typical Toyota quality. Love the steering, love the seats in the GR86. They hug you appropriately without being too tight in the wrong places. I find that some Japanese sports cars tend to be built, the seats tend to be built for Japanese bodies and not Australian or American, you know, or other Western size bodies where we eat crap and so we get broader and fatter and everything. And I found that the seats in that were comfortable for me. I've got a fairly broad chest. So that was all good. The sound, I reckon, is a little bit muted. I know that you can have sound digitally piped into the car, into the interior, which Danindu sensibly disabled. I know it has an exhaust, which is about to be fitted. It'll be interesting to see what kind of difference that makes to the car. That's one of the things that I love about my Boxster is the sports exhaust on it, because that just lends so much character to a car. If you're into cars, and particularly if you're into sports cars, then the way it sounds is just as important as how it steers and brakes and handles and looks. All these things come together to create an image in your mind, an emotional connection with the car, and how you perceive that car and how much you grow to love that car. The interior design, while basic, Toyota grey, does look quite appealing, I reckon. It's got a bit of Lexus feel to it with some of the switchgear and some of the components. The rear luggage area is understandably quite small, but expands significantly once you drop the back seats. It's nice to see under the bonnet there's actually an engine there that you can see and not just a big piece of plastic. So access to the engine and the components around it look really good, and it's just nice to see something mechanical there. It's one thing I'm kind of spewing about with the Boxster is it would be nice to be able to see a bit of engine there like you can on, say, the Honda NSX. But sadly, it's all just stuffed in there, and without removing bits and pieces from the car, you're not going to see the engine in a Cayman or a Boxster. Blasting around the area in my Porsche with Danindu behind me in the GR86, I have to say he's clearly an enthusiast and a spirited driver, and he did a very good job keeping on my tail as we were driving around. Not that I was going crazy fast or anything, but he's clearly an enthusiast driver, and he did say a couple of times that whenever he gets in the GR, something just comes alive in him, and he just drives like a bit of a lunatic. And he did tell me that the brakes do have limited life in them when you're really pressing on, and that you have to be cognizant of the fact that brake fade is inevitable if you're pushing on a windy mountain road. I didn't get to experience that because I'm always reluctant to push well, when I say always, it's not something I do every day, but I was reluctant to push his car as hard as I would push, say, my Boxster or a car supplied by Porsche. Anyway, to answer the question, would an aspiring Cayman driver be satisfied with something like the GR86? And I think that comes down to the motive behind wanting a Cayman. If wanting a Cayman is driven mostly by the Porsche story and the history behind the brand or the perceived status of owning a Porsche, then probably not. It probably won't be sufficient. And somebody who really wants to get into a Cayman for those reasons will find whatever it is they need to do to get one, whether it's selling one of their children or one of their non-vital body organs, and they'll get one way or another. Like me, they'll sell whatever they have to. I sold 35 things to buy my Boxster. Didn't have to sell one of my children or one of my organs, thankfully. But if your motivation for getting a Cayman is for the driving experience, for the steering and handling and the excitement of propelling a two-door sports car down the road in a spirited fashion, well then, yeah, I reckon the GR86 could keep you happy for quite some time. Like I said, it's not exactly down on power. I mean, I'm talking about comparing it to a 981, which is what I'm driving myself. If it's pre-owned Cayman, whether it's 987 or 981, versus GR86 Toyota, the Toyota makes a pretty compelling argument. I mean, it's mid-40s Australian dollars versus probably double that for a 981 Cayman minimum. Then it makes a pretty solid argument for getting the new car with not that much less horsepower, fantastic ride and handling, opportunities to enhance its performance if you want to, particularly in terms of, say, suspension, wheel and tyre configuration, attractive looks. I think it's a good-looking car. It's a handsome-looking car. And, of course, Toyota's legendary bulletproof reliability. You've got a pretty compelling argument in your hands to go for the GR86. I think you're far less likely to lose your license in this car. You certainly won't have to be driving as quickly to feel the car's response to your inputs. On balance, it's probably no less practical than a Cayman. Cayman has a nice big boot up the front, the Boxster Cayman, which is fantastic, and that's quite unusual. But then the GR86 has small seats in the back that you can throw stuff, and it still has a boot, and those seats fold forward to make a much larger boot. Anyway, interested to know what you think. And also what you think of the photos. If you want to learn how to take photos of cars, by the way, I've made a short video for you here, which you can have a look at. Runs through some of the things I've learned over the last 40 odd years of photographing cars. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.